Hello everyone, we're in Kamenets today. Actually, we're in Kamenets-Litovsk today. This town was founded in 13th century, and until 1939 it was called Kamenets-Litovsk. The tower you see behind me was constructed in 1276. So this tower is a witness of all the centers of life in Kamenets-Litovsk. The Jews came to Kamenets-Litovsk in the 1500, and the Jewish life have started since a Jew from Brest has bought the house in Kamyanyets in 1500. And then the Jewish life was progressing. It started from 10 Jews forming a minyan in Kamyanyets, and in 1939 the Jewish population of Kamyanyets was almost 4,000, which formed 92% of the general population of Kamyanyets. And the Jewish life in Kamyanyets was a little different than around the area, which I will tell you today why it was a little different. Life in Kamenets-Litovsk was buzzing around the market square. The majority of the shops on the market square belonged to the Jews. Jews were craftsmen, Jews were trading. A lot of shops, hotels, restaurants belonged to the members of the Jewish community. You can see behind me there is a building of a restaurant that belonged to a Jew, which I will tell you about. But this market square existed until 1939, and only after this area was divided within Poland and Soviet Union, all the shops on the market square were wiped out, they were destroyed. Very interesting Jewish building that is facing the market square. The building currently has the Council of the Architecture Department of Kamyaniec. Used to be a music school, but before that the house belonged to Yosel Vigotov. Yosel Vigotov was a merchant, a wealthy man, and also a very respectful man. He was the head of the Kagal Council, the council that was making decisions in Kamenets-Litovsk in the Jewish community. And Yosel was living in this house. On one side, the house of the head of the Kagal Council, and on another side, a building that used to be a Jewish hotel, belonged to the businessman Galpern. Again, the hotel was facing the market square where the life was buzzing. And the interesting thing about the hotel, the only person who survived the Kamyanyets ghetto was the daughter of the owner of the hotel by the name Dora. Dora Galpern has survived the Kamyanyets ghetto, and this story is still untold. There's a lot of details and there's a lot to do to investigate this story. And hopefully next time we're gonna get online, we'll tell you more details about this very interesting story of survival of the Dora Galpern. Do you know where the most of the Jewish mises, as they say, Jewish tales, Jewish stories, Jewish gossips were told? Right, in a Jewish restaurant. This building is a Gertzman's restaurant that belonged to a Jew, and that's where Jews gathered, and that's where they were telling the stories, sharing their thoughts, sharing their opinions, telling the mises, as they say. This is where the main entrance to the restaurant was located. Obviously it was facing the market square, so people could see the restaurant from the market square, and that's where they could come in. And the only original left by today is this small door going into the basement of the restaurant. Obviously that's where the products were brought and unloaded to be cooked in this restaurant. Behind me, the building, today it's a library. Today it's intellectual food. But before the war, it was a bakery that belonged to a Jew by the name Alan. And it was not a food for thought, it was a real good bakery and a really good food. Shtetl Kamenets-Litovsk wasn't different than any other shtetls in the Pale of Settlement. Jews came, Jewish cemetery, cheder, yeshiva, synagogue. The building behind me is the heart of Kamenets-Litovsk. This is a former Der Meir synagogue in Kamenets-Litovsk. Was constructed at the end of the 18th and beginning of the 19th century. Again, facing the market square. Everything in Shtetl Kamenets-Litovsk was around the market square. The life was buzzing, the religious life was buzzing in this building. Currently, it's abandoned building and being reconstructed by one of the private owners. Do not enter. That's exactly what was happening around the area of the synagogue. The area was fenced, the gates were closed down, and everybody knew that that's the time when the prayers start in the synagogue. Locals were saying that during the Shabbat and Jewish holidays, little kids were running around shouting, "In shul herein." We don't know what it means, but probably something is going on in the shul, which meant everybody had to keep quiet, and then the service in the synagogue has started. There were 4 Jewish schools in Kamenets-Litovsk, and one of the biggest was Yeshiva Talmud Knesset Beit Yitzchak. This building behind me, in 1938, hosted 271 students, and in 1939, 417. Students were from America, Italy, Germany, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, Germany. All over the world, students were studying in this amazing Kamenets-Litovsk yeshiva. We're inside of the building of a former yeshiva, and of course, not a lot has survived until today. The original walls, they've been, of course, repainted and reconstructed, and the floors are also original, but there's a tile over it. But few things you can see that survived, and it's the ceiling up here. You can see this is original ceiling, it was just painted. And also original stairs. Of course, they've been renovated, you know, things are new, but they're original. Those are original steps. This is the steps that Jewish students were walking on to their knowledge, to their future life of a religious person. Do you know what the difference is between cheder and military registration office? 50 years of communism. The building you can see behind me is the former building of cheder, which is located right in front of the synagogue. That's where the Jewish kids were coming for their knowledge, to learn Torah, to learn Jewish traditions. And now that's where young men are coming to get their military registration. But discipline still exists in this building. We couldn't pass by this quite unique Soviet pumping system, which was located outside of almost every house that that was functioning in the villages. This is a pumping system that people were using to get the water. See, automatic. Obviously this rubber cord is new, but the actual pump is quite authentic and unique for now. You don't find it very often in towns in Belarus now. Behind me is the common house of a Jewish trader. You can see that on the first basement floor there's warehousing, there's a commercial property, and the second floor is a living floor. So that's how the business was done by the Jewish traders. They were owning the house, keeping the stuff that they were selling on the basement floor and living on the second floor. It's a very common thing even with the cafes that owned by the Jews. They would be living on the second floor and they would be hosting the restaurant or cafe on the first floor. Windows users, do you know what a real firewall is? The real firewall exists in Kamenets-Litovsk. You can see behind me, that's a firewall. The wall that separated two houses because of the intense construction and the houses standing very close to each other. There would be a brick wall between those two houses. And the brick was made in Kamenets-Litovsk, a local brick, a local firewall. Friends, one of the gems of Kamenets-Litovsk is the house behind me. Not just the house that is 120 years old, but what you can see up there is the Star of David. Star of David has survived 120 years, has survived several wars, it has survived the Holocaust, and it's still there. And recently it's still there because our friend and a great tour guide, Andrei, because when city was reconstructed, what happened is the constructors decided there is no Jews living in the house, no one sees it, and they decided to take it down. And Andrei, a local tour guide, a local professional on the heritage, was walking by and said, "Where is the Star of David?" And he made it happen that the Star of David came back, because the whole street, people living here, they said every morning we wake up and we see the Star of David. This is our Star of David, even if we're not Jewish. And he made it that the star is now back on the house. He's our hero today. He's a Kamenets-Litovsk hero. So meet Andrei. Very interesting little detail which survived until today. You can see this tool is called buchstabe. This is the tool to cover the windows. So when an owner would leave, he would completely cover the windows, sticking into the second part of the window, and was completely covered. Today we call it rollers, roller protectors. But we didn't have rollers at that time, they used buchstabe. That's authentic. When you walk on the streets of Kamenets-Litovsk, you really imagine how the life was buzzing here. All those Jewish houses, they still keep the spirit of the Jewish Shtetl. You know, the houses where they were selling ice cream, the houses of photographer, the barber shop. It really feels like the life was buzzing here. And now it's all quiet. It's quiet because there's no Jewish community anymore here. But our memory and our heritage still here with the Kamenets-Litovsk. You can just imagine how amazing and how interesting the life was in this town. It was a real Jewish shtetl once upon a time. Look at this house. Really outside looks like it's well kept, and it's very good that the owner of this house, it's private now, still keeps and is trying to keep the outside as it used to be, as it was during the Shtetl period. This was as they called rюмочная, a shut house. That's where you were able to come and have some shots to drink and to have a bite, and was very popular among the population in this town. Because again, where would you share the gossips? You take a shot, you have a bite, and you talk. This is what Jews have done. They work hard, and then they could relax in rюмочная and listen to all the gossips in town. This is a great example of a good, lively shtetl. The house behind me seems just like a local village house, newly built, but what's special about this? Special is the roof. One would say, well, it's a regular roof. Why it's so special? Well, it's special because our friend guide Andrei has made this roof an exact copy of the roof of the Jewish lemonade factory in Kamenets-Litovsk. It's an exact copy of the roof that was on a lemonade factory. The factory doesn't exist anymore, but he took this from the old photos of lemonade factory, which means that Kamenets-Litovsk had its own lemonade factory, a Jewish lemonade factory, so its own Coca-Cola. So it's a Kamieniec Coca-Cola. Unfortunately, there is no Jewish community in Kamenets-Litovsk today. The Jewish community was wiped out during the Holocaust, and today we're witnessing here the wiping out of the Jewish heritage and the Jewish buildings. And what the building you see here is one of the key buildings for the Jews. It's a former mikvah. And unfortunately, what we're witnessing here is the collapse of this heritage, is the disappearance of this heritage. Fortunately, there's no Jews in Kamyanyets to keep it up and to use this building. Tragic part of the history of the Kamenets-Litovsk Jews. In 1941, when the Nazis came, they formed two ghettos, the big ghetto and a small ghetto. But then they've decided to remove all the Jews from the Kamenets ghetto to the Prozhany ghetto, and they've sent them all there. But because the Prozhany ghetto was overcrowded, then they've ordered all the Kamenets Jews to come back to Kamyanyets. And that's where they formed the new ghetto. It was partly fenced, it was partly barbed wired. And then in 1942, all the Jews of Kamenets ghetto, around 4,000 Jews, were ordered to move to Vysokie, where the ghetto was already empty because all of the Jews were killed. And then the people from the Kamyanyets ghetto were transported from Vysokie to Treblinka, and all of them were killed. Another interesting project that Andrei doing as a volunteer, he's collecting the matzevot around the town. He's bringing it to his country house here and he's storing them here. He's been collecting it all over the city, from the stairs of the gymnasium, from around the city, from the pavement. He's been saving this matzevot and bringing those matzevot to his country house, hoping that one day this matzevot will go back to the original place of the Jewish cemetery. It's a noble volunteer work that he is doing. You can see how many matzevot he had brought here. It's around 50-55 matzevot that he says that are here, and he knows more places around the city where those matzevot are kept. Those matzevot were used for the basement, for the walls, for the pavement, and he says that's his duty to collect all those matzevot and to help to bring this matzevot to one safe place. You can see that this is the matzevot that have perfectly survived. They have writing on it. Some of the matzevot, Andrei said that they've been read, and he has got the translation of the writing on it, which he will share with us. And you can see they piled up here very carefully, and they're protected from the rain. Amazing, amazing what he is doing. That's such an important work. House of the famous Rabbi Baruch Ber Leibowitz, the head teacher of the Kamenets-Litovsk yeshiva. Baruch Ber Leibowitz was a student in Belarusian yeshiva, and his teacher was Chaim Saladeichik. Baruch Ber Leibowitz was very famous, and in 1928 he went to New York to fundraise for his yeshiva in Kamenets-Litovsk. And Jimmy Walker, the mayor of New York, gave him a key to the town. And why, they asked him, why are you giving the key to this rabbi? Because Rabbi Ber-Leibowitz has disproved the Darwin's theory of evolution, he said. Rabbi Ber-Leibowitz has been head teacher of Kamenets-Litovsk yeshiva for 13 years. He has brought this yeshiva to a very high level, as I already mentioned that over 417 students were studying in this yeshiva from all over the world. And in 1939, when Nazis started coming to the area, he decided to escape from Nazis and communism, and he went to Vilna together with his yeshiva students. But unfortunately, Rabbi Leibowitz has died near Vilna and is buried in a cemetery in Vilna. And then students of his yeshiva escaped from Vilna through Siberia to the west. Kamenets-Litovsk is a small Jewish shtetl with a big Jewish heart. Kamenets-Litovsk has left a huge input in the world Jewish heritage and history.